Let's take a moment to rewind. Do you remember the golden days of daytime TV? I'm talking about the days when switching on This Morning felt like catching up with your favorite aunt and uncle. There sat Eamonn Holmes and Ruth Langsford, the undisputed king and queen of the sofa. They were bickering, they were laughing, and above all, they were us. For decades, the Northern Irish broadcaster wasn't just a presenter. He was a fixture in our living rooms, an untouchable titan of the industry who felt like a friend. But life, as we all know, comes at you fast. The world shifted on its axis for Eamonn in 2020 when the unthinkable happened. He and Ruth were replaced by Alison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary. It was the end of an era. In a move that surprised many, Eamonn took his talents to GB News in 2022. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where he could unleash his unfiltered opinions and command the morning news cycle. Fast forward to today, and the picture looks very different. The charm is fading, the tension is rising, and frankly, it's becoming painful to watch. It brings me no joy to say this, because we all have a soft spot for Eamonn, but he has become GB News' biggest problem. And perhaps, just perhaps, it is time for him to say goodbye. The atmosphere is turning toxic. We need to talk about what's happening behind the scenes because the rumors are getting too loud to ignore. Eamonn currently presents alongside Ellie Costello, following the sudden and somewhat mysterious axing of Isabel Webster last December. But if reports from the Daily Mail are to be believed, the on-screen chemistry is masking a backstage nightmare. Sources suggest that the 65-year-old veteran is clashing with co-stars, and that the vibe when the cameras stop rolling is, to put it mildly, very messy. One insider put it bluntly: when the cameras roll, Eamonn still switches it on, but away from that it's very messy. He's in a foul mood, and everyone behind the scenes feels it. We've all worked with someone who is going through a hard time. We know how that energy permeates a room. It walks in the door before they do. A healthy working environment is crucial, especially in the high-pressure cooker of live television news. If the captain of the ship is constantly snapping at the crew, eventually, the ship is going to hit an iceberg. But before we judge him too harshly, we have to pause. We have to look at the human being behind the headlines. Because when you peel back the layers, Eamonn isn't just being grumpy. He is a man under siege. The crushing weight of financial ruin. Imagine waking up every day knowing you are fighting a battle you can't seem to win. That is Eamonn's reality right now regarding his finances. The broadcaster has been locked in a devastating war with HMRC over his tax status. This isn't just a slap on the wrist, it is financial devastation. Last week, Eamonn dropped a bombshell that made hearts sink. He claimed this tax row has cost him 2 houses and more than £1 million. Just let that sink in. A lifetime of work stripped away. And it's not over. He recently revealed he is being forced to cough up a further £250,000 for an outstanding tax bill. That is £250,000. For most people, that is an unimaginable sum. For Eamonn, it's a cloud hanging over every single broadcast. Is it any wonder he's allegedly snapping at producers? Is it any surprise that his patience is wearing thin? When you are literally working to pay off debts that are swallowing your assets whole, the joy of the job evaporates. It becomes a grind. It becomes survival. A body and heart in pain. If money were the only issue, maybe he could power through with a smile. But Eamonn is fighting a war on 2 other fronts, his health and his heart. We watched the demise of his marriage to Ruth play out in the public eye. They were TV's golden couple, and their divorce marks the shattering of a foundational part of his life. Divorce is a trauma akin to bereavement. To go through that while the cameras are watching requires a strength that few of us possess. Then, there is the physical agony. Eamonn has been incredibly brave and open about his health battles. He has undergone spinal surgery for 3 slip discs. Anyone who has suffered from back issues knows that chronic pain is a mild term for what it actually is: a relentless, grinding misery that steals your sleep, your mobility, and yes, your mood. He is in pain. He is heartbroken. He is under massive financial duress. When you combine chronic physical pain with the emotional anguish of a divorce and the terror of financial ruin, you don't get a cheerful morning TV host. You get a human being at their breaking point. The dilemma: ratings versus reality. So, what is GB News supposed to do? This is the million-dollar question. From a business standpoint, Eamonn is gold. He is one of the biggest names on the roster. He brings credibility, history, and a loyal fan base to a channel that is still fighting for its place in the mainstream. His exit could cause a significant dip in viewership figures, and in the cutthroat world of TV, numbers are God. But at what cost? Bosses cannot simply ignore the claims of foul moods and backstage toxicity. You cannot sacrifice the well-being of an entire production team for the sake of one star, no matter how brightly they once shined. It creates a culture of fear and resentment that eventually bleeds onto the screen. Viewers aren't stupid. We can sense when the chemistry is off. We can tell when the smiles don't quite reach the eyes. The kindest cut, why leaving is the right move. Here is the hard truth, delivered with love. Eamonn needs to stop. Not because he isn't talented, he is a legend. Not because we don't want to see him, we do. But because he needs to prioritize himself. Continuing to grind away in a high-stress studio environment while trying to manage chronic pain and financial panic is a recipe for disaster. It feels like we are watching a slow-motion crash. It is heartbreaking to see a man who gave us so many laughs reduced to a figure of tension and reported anger. It might be best for him to bid farewell to his TV career, at least the daily grind of it. He needs to find an alternative way to clear his debts before the stress takes an irreversible toll on his health. There is life after the breakfast sofa. Imagine an Eamonn who writes a tell-all autobiography. Can you imagine the sales figures on that? He has seen it all, met everyone, and has the Irish gift of the gab. It would be a bestseller instantly. Imagine Eamonn on the lucrative public speaking circuit, telling stories on his own terms, sitting in a comfortable chair, without a producer shouting in his ear or a tax bill deadline looming over the 6 a.m. slot. Retirement, or at least a semi-retirement pivot, isn't a defeat. It's a victory for his well-being. Wishing him peace. We are rooting for Eamonn. We really are. He has given us decades of entertainment. He has been there for breaking news, royal weddings, and silly segments that made us giggle over our tea. He is clearly going through one of the darkest periods of his life. But holding on to a job that seems to be exacerbating his stress isn't the answer. It's time to preserve his legacy. It's time to prioritize his health. Eamonn, if you're listening, you've done enough. You've proven enough. Go heal your back, settle your affairs in peace, and find your smile again. We'll still be here cheering you on, just from a distance.